in many ways, we don't know how it's going to affect anybody. We don't know all the tariffs that are happening. It's all up in the air with all the stuff that's going on. So don't let it overstress you. Just got to keep doing the work, keep running your business the way it is. Try not to make too many modifications based on self-limiting beliefs, things that you think could be happening. Don't let those things happen. Let yourself continue to be focused on the plan going forward, make slight adjustments. And then, even if it comes down to something, hey, I'm just stressed, I need people to talk to, join a group like the Brotherhood, right? Join in and have conversations. We talk about this stuff all the time. The amount of times we've talked each other off a cliff over the last 8 years or more, it's amazing. Hey guys, welcome back to the Brotherhood Beyond Business Podcast. Today, we're just going to discuss some of the economic times that are going on right now. Should you be worried? Should you not be worried? We have no answers on this on either way. We're honestly just having a discussion to see how we should be talking about it, what you guys should be thinking about as entrepreneurs. We are looking at this specifically through an entrepreneur lens, not a political lens being like which side, blah, blah, blah. It's just how do we see it in the businesses that we are running to know, and honestly, just having three entrepreneurs having to talk about this like we would in a mastermind group. In a mastermind group, we would talk about these conversations how does this affect us? So we're just going to go through that today and have those conversations. I'm going to have Joe go ahead and kick this topic off on what we're even talking about.
Yeah, man. So it's just, I've been seeing it all over the place. And the term that I hear the most right now is economic uncertainty. So if you get political with it, you're going to hear doom and gloom on one side, and you're going to hear positive things on the other side that are going to come over time. That's what I'm hearing. So it's like a wait. Basically, they both boil down to a wait and see, but they're just trying to paint two different pictures in terms of our political system. I think for us as business owners, and at our current age, the biggest thing that we can compare maybe the uncertainty to is 2008 with the housing crash. And then COVID, when there was just that massive drop in terms of when we look at the S&P 500 or we look at markets. But I think it's also, and then we can think about decisions we made during them and use that experience to drive us forward now in the ways that we talk to the people that are in our business, the ways that we talk to our employees, all that good stuff. And then it's also important to zoom out and think okay, there's not a worldwide pandemic right now. And I think for me, it's nothing could be worse than the way that went, in terms of how it was all handled, and we, everything got shut down. So almost everything, even economic uncertainty, to me seems like small problems at this point. I feel like we should all be able to handle it based on everything we went through with COVID, or at least have some level of grit or resilience because of the experience that we got through that.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I think Joe, what types of things did you do during COVID? Cause in 2008, I didn't have a business, so I can't necessarily relate to how I changed, how I acted in terms of owning a business. But I know for me, COVID, I was worried, right? I didn't know what to expect, but I would say I didn't necessarily change my business too much. I still tried to serve my customers, but it was more making sure I'm keeping them healthy and safe, more so than it was more that side of it, more so than the economic side of it. You know what I mean? I almost didn't even think about that too much there. What are some of the things that you guys did during COVID that maybe was different for how you normally act on a given a normal basis if it's just a random day here in April of 2025?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is leaning into the resources and the people that we have. Because in COVID, there's a lot of things we didn't have control over, but we still wanted to take care of the people that were in our business. But one thing that did change big was the amount of time we spent discussing this stuff so that we could, and sharing the things that we were going through so that we could maybe avoid certain mistakes. If something brand new we needed to try, Danny could say well, I tried this piece of technology. We tried spending this much time on this new avenue for delivering what we're trying to deliver to our customers in this weird time. And we could learn maybe that didn't work well. So as we come into this time, I'm watching what a lot of CEOs are saying, of technology companies, of other mentoring companies, and they're looking at ways to maintain or even grow your business during uncertain times, or they're making general sweeping recommendations to not do certain things. I would say in terms of what I learned from COVID and how that could relate here is specifically the amount of time you spend with the people that you trust in business so that you can get ahead of any mistakes that could be made. Does that make sense? Like leaning on your network more.
Well, I think that's something we did a lot, right? We had us three, we had each other, we had our mastermind group. So, and maybe that's why it didn't seem as like that we had to do all these crazy things, because we had each other to kind of lean on, of like, all right, let's put this in action. I tested this worked, and I think that's kind of to your point, your network, the people around you, not even just within your business, but outside of your business, like our mastermind group I think it was pretty invaluable at that point, because you're not alone. You know what I mean? You're working with 8, 9 other people that are, kind of in it with you.
Yeah. And it helps you deal with that lonely at the top syndrome, right? That stuff that we all kind of deal with. And if we're looking at now, which is different from COVID because it's not totally unknown, it's just some uncertainty economically, I think having those conversations about like, okay, how much did your business grow significantly last month? What about the last month? Like, what's our trend over the last 3 to 4 months? And how is that looking for you in your area? What's something you did that helped you continue to grow, even though people are claiming this economic uncertainty? I think that's a benefit of us having each other. And like, I was just at a conference this last weekend and talking to people, and you just get answers all over the board about how they're doing financially in their business, or how we'll just say financially, like how their business is performing. Because things have been good for my main business, but slower last month than the year before, whereas the other 2 months were better than the year before. And then I'm talking to other people, and some of them are telling me that things have been really slow for them as far as new growth in their business. And then other people who are still growing, getting tons of leads from Facebook or whatever avenue they do their marketing from. So, I'd be interested to hear how things have been going with you guys.
Yeah. So I'll actually let Danny go next, because he's still, so just anybody that doesn't know us, Danny and Joe are still running a fitness. They each have fitness businesses. I do own a fitness business, but I'm very little involved in it. So I'll take an avenue after that of what's happening on my B2B business in this kind of I'm seeing right now. So Danny, you want to go ahead and say, kind of give some feedback on how your gym's been doing, just like Joe's has in the comparison.
Yeah, mine hasn't really dropped off much, and I don't know if that's where I live. I don't know if that's the demographic we're working with, or what have you, so I haven't seen a significant thing. Now, I was testing some things in my business, so it's a little, my situation this time of year, like Q1 of 2025 was different than Q1 of 2024, just because of the resources I had in terms of, people in sales roles and other roles and things like that, which I didn't have in 2024, and testing some things out that are new. So, obviously that can come with good or bad results. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
When you're testing some things. So I wouldn't say I've seen a difference, but when it comes to like the numbers of like what are true that aren't dictated by like the decisions or the things we were testing, they were on par, if not better than last year, actually, with some of our acquisition channels in terms of the amount of leads coming in, the amount of people scheduling appointments, coming in and showing up to those appointments are all quite a bit up right now. So I would say I personally in our business haven't seen the effect of it, but I think one thing that I do know is like, and we're kind of in like a weird situation, right? Like, I think now's the time, and you're hearing this everywhere too, is like, you got to lean on AI. You got to use AI as your resource instead of being scared of it, right? Because it's there, it's not going anywhere. And I think right now is like a perfect time to like figure out, how can I incorporate some automations through AI or make things simpler where I can cut costs elsewhere in case something does happen, because AI can be a lot cheaper for you. So I really think like leaning on AI, like a lot of people are talking about right now, is probably an important thing that people could do right now. However, like the problem that you run into that with is we're also at a point in our society that like people are so over automated stuff, right? Like people get blasted with automated messages and things like that. And like, we were doing that for a decent amount, actually, being honest. And we've seen such a drop off with it versus like manual conversations with people, because we're trying to save time and different things there. Cause we're talking to a lot of people, and we've seen a negative effect from it. So it's like, it's like you want to use AI to cut costs during this downturn, potentially, like to save you time, save you money, save whatever, make things better. However, there's the other side of it, the customer service side of it, where like people are over that. People don't want that, or people are not going to buy from companies that are doing that too frequently, right? So it's how do you find tools like that or resources like that to help you during a downturn that doesn't also raise a red flag to your potential customers or current customers that, ends up doing the opposite effect, and you start losing people or not getting new people in,
Yeah. I mean, it's uncertainty is a twofold thing, right? There's uncertainty on how we feel for ourselves, and then there's uncertainty as an entrepreneur of how we feel our customers will react, right?
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
when I'm going to go use 2020 versus 2025 for me. So 2020, when I just owned a gym, I was always worried about the customer's reaction, right? Like what they could do is all what they could do. And in 2025, I would probably be still thinking the same thing. If I was kind of focused on our fitness business, I'd probably be like, oh man, can the customers afford this? But one thing that I did was during this time, I built a marketing agency because I didn't want to be stuck with like, what if COVID happens again to gyms and we're not an essential business? So I created another avenue to make sure that I wasn't attached to that, any of that was happening. Now, economy is different than what happened there. But the other thing that I did specifically is I also started focusing on home services or trades, because trades will not be affected by pretty much anything that happens anyway. A plumber has to do plumbing stuff regardless of what happens any day. If your sewer's broken, nobody's going to go out there and fix their own toilet, most likely. So we specifically went after home services. So now the way I kind of think about it, like when we started talking about when Joe kind of brought up this topic, was I don't think about it at all, honestly, personally, because we've kind of like tried to build this specific business to be protected against it, because we've chose industries that no matter what happens, they can't be changed. Meaning like home services you're not going to change that. Maybe people will adjust prices. The plumbers that don't do a great job plumbing or just trying to catch more customers might change their thing, but most plumbers aren't, because those costs have been kind of ingrained for 20, 30 years. They haven't really changed their pricing too much over time. It's just costs a lot for a person to come out and fix those things. So honestly, like when I kind of think about it as a business owner, I now work B2B versus B2C. I think sometimes if I was working B2C, I would feel a little bit different. I know some clients that I work with that are still in the fitness business, and they have been worried about their marketing and stuff. So I definitely see that side. And then talking to my business partner, Nathan, we have just changed our model during this time a little bit on the fitness side to move to selling. Actually, funny thing is, like, as the economy went down, we actually decided to sell higher ticket stuff, because Nathan's idea was, and I completely support him on this, was the idea is like, hey, instead of trying to get, another 30 people at $200 a month, I just want to sell 1 to 2 people at $2,500 a month in our high ticket price. And so he's putting all of his effort into just selling those things. And it's worked out. He's sold, since we switched that model. Again, we used to do this model and we switched back to it in March. He's sold multiple of those memberships, but his idea was like, I'm instead trying to, usually the people that can barely afford the 200 are the ones that are being affected more right now. The people that can afford the 2,500 still honestly aren't being affected, because they've either, one, have a really good paying job, two, they actually have built up good finances. They're not like kind of like nickel and diming their finances. Their budgeting isn't being as affected by the grocery costs as everybody else. So I do think that kind of matters a little bit on, like, and Danny had brought up, like, demographics matter for this kind of stuff. And so the demographic could matter. So that's what we've done in our fitness business specifically. But for my B2B business, right? So working with plumbing companies, electricians, landscapers, things of that nature, it really hasn't affected us at all. It hasn't even been on my mind at all, because of those components. Is I tried to insulate ourselves a little bit more. I do think that was a lesson that I took from 2020, was the fact that I need to insulate my businesses, because I don't want to be affected by the government in many ways. I want to be affected by, like, what do people need every day? And that's kind of where we went. Me and Danny own Level Up together. And when we were deciding, like, who's the niche we work with over time, we came back to, like, things like roofers, like people that we knew that just, like, were killing it no matter what was happening. It was like, and that's what we had to kind of change our model into that, what was killing it. And so I do think from this economic conversation, the thing I would say for all business owners is try to find ways to insulate your business a little bit more. So that way, when things do change in the economy, I think economy is more something we need to worry about than honestly than something like COVID, right? That might hopefully will be once in our generation kind of thing. I know it happens in every generation, but I'm hoping in our generation it happens once in our generation. But the economy stuff's probably like an every decade thing, honestly. And so we need to insulate our businesses for these.
What are like, sure, like what are some things that people could maybe do, right? Like obviously like you started a whole new business, right? Which is great. And instead of like I'm not telling people to go start a new business and get distracted and do all this, because that probably won't work out either during this time. But like what are some things within whatever their current business is that maybe like a blanket thing that like a lot of people could start to do to be able to insulate their business at least a little bit more without like completely like tearing it down and all that?
So I'm going to come from a risk reversal side because my brain, you guys know me, I work that way with a lot of things. Is the very first thing everybody can do is to build up finances, to build up your actual bank accounts. I could say, using fitness businesses as an example, I would say most fitness businesses probably don't even have a month worth of expenses put away extra, right? For these kind of situations, right? So the first thing would be, period. If you're not building up savings, you need to cut costs in your business. You need to cut employees in your business, and you need to jump back in until you build up those finances, period. Like that's just like 101 for like life, right? You have to do it in your personal life. You should have 3 months in your savings for your personal expenses as well as your business expenses. And most businesses just keep on, I'm just going to keep adding and growing and not actually putting money away. So that's the number one insulator. That's been around since the beginning of time. That hasn't changed. Yeah. Just people, because the economy's been good for so long, people just don't, I'll just make more money. Well, now when the economy's not perfect, it's like, oh man, it would have been nice to have that rainy day fund, right? And so like that's step number one. You got to insulate yourself that way. Step number two for me would be, as an entrepreneur, you need to continue to dive into what are the strongest people in your business that you can get more of. What I mean by that, I'm trying to think of the right term, but the idea is like, it's not exactly your ideal client sometimes, but it's like, it's the client that like, no matter what, just keeps spending money with you, honestly. Like how do I get more of those people? And so you have I can't remember what, I think I sent this to Danny recently, but like, it's like the people that spend, that have on the lowest cost in your business cost you the most time. Like if let's use a fitness membership. Somebody maybe is paying, you have on a grandfathered in price at like $140 a month. And then you have the new people coming at $200 a month. That $200 a month doesn't balk an eye about things, or like for us, the $2,500 a month. They don't ask for anything extra. That $140 a month person is just like driving you insane with all your extra time. So how do I find more people paying higher prices? Because people that pay higher prices, honestly, will have less complaints in your business, and you can build a stronger business for it. But the idea is we keep on chasing just everybody instead of chasing the right person. So I would say every entrepreneur can go through that model. We actually did it just in Level Up ourselves. We just went out and figured out, okay, we were trying to chase every business to be able to do this model. And then that's when we really niched down to, here's the specific ones. And we're going to just focus on plumbers because plumbers can charge this much. We knew these things. We had to like narrow ourselves down. And so inside your business, maybe you're trying to, because it's like, well, I need to bring the price down for other people. It's like, no, maybe you should actually be raising the prices. Maybe not truly raising the prices, but like make sure that you're continue to stick to your guns, because people coming in at the right price point will actually continue to build your business correctly.
Yeah, I think a good resource for that too is Mike McCallott's pumpkin plan. It kind of talks a lot about that, of like feeding your pumpkins, the big pumpkin farmers they got these giant pumpkins that are growing, and then these little ones. And most people will be like, well, that little one might grow and it might end up being good, but those are the $140 a month things that you're talking about, right? So it's like, feed those big ticket packages or whatever it is, because they're your best clients anyways, and they're probably your raving fans going out and telling everybody else and recruiting others to come in. Like, cut those other ones off and just feed those, like Trevor's talking about. And that's kind of the concept of the book. So it's a good resource if you guys are interested in kind of that concept to insulate your business a little bit more, is the Pumpkin Plan by Mike McCallowitz.
Yeah, I think they offer a good like interview system in that book too. We did that. We called it, I don't know if he calls it this in his book or not, but like we have seed clients and weed clients. And the seed would be like your giant pumpkins, right? Like that we want to have more of and grow our business through those clients. So like seed, it's probably just another analogy. But sitting down, like identify those clients, you go through, look at, okay, you can probably get a report like who's spending the most, and then look at the clients that you enjoy working with out of those that are spending the most. And then you sit down with them and say, okay, what attracted you to us? Like, what was the problem you were trying to solve? And then you can craft a marketing message around that. And then you find out like, what kind of results have you gotten with us? Like, how have we helped you? Because then you can help craft your services around that, right? Like actually how these people get help and why they keep coming back, and then asking them why they stay around so long. So that was pretty helpful for us because we, very similar to Trevor, like and Danny, you too, because I know we've talked about it, like we've shifted a lot of what we do into higher paying services at our business because we would rather keep a smaller group of great people happy rather than try to keep a whole lot of people happy that aren't spending as much money, but they have to spend more money if you're going to have less clients. So focusing on those higher paying services and then figuring out which of those clients you want to go after long term. I think that's great advice, Trevor, especially along with the money, like building that bank account up. But that's probably the best thing to do because then you're both of those things, because then you're prepared no matter what, right? If you've got the money, if you have issues, and then if you already know what your seed clients, what they wanted, you can go get more of them. And then if you know what they like and why they stay around, then you can already have the service and the systems in place to serve those people ongoing. And that should really insulate you.
Yeah.
Especially from an economic issue.
I think you could also like look at that same thing from like a staffing perspective, right? Because you might have to cut costs, you might have to cut people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, who are your seed staff, your A-list, staff members that like maybe can probably take on a little bit more, or
Yeah.
maybe execute things a little bit more effective. And that might even be a long-term strategy that's better. You know what I mean? Like you guys, we've talked with me, like I have, 12 staff members, you know what I mean? And, a bunch of part-timers. So like sometimes it doesn't always work out, but it's looking at like, okay, maybe my clients, who do we want to work with? Who's probably the best to work with for the business? And then also same thing on a staff level, and see how you can keep that, condense that down a little bit to save some costs, but still get the same output.
Yeah. If you get the right staff in there, they'll go along 100% with the clientele that you're trying to bring in that are willing to pay more for your services because they value it more, because those are the people that they're going to enjoy working with too.
Yeah.
And having
And
that
even,
lean staff that's really happy is just, oh my gosh, it lowers stress levels so much.
I agree. And I think so many people get worried about like, well, I'm gonna have to pay a really good staff member really well. And that's true. But one person that you got to pay more is probably still going to be a lot less expensive than three people you're paying moderately, right? So for probably the same output, if not more, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, I think just changing perspectives, I think, is important. The other thing I would say, like, I wouldn't stop marketing though. I think that's one thing that most businesses go to, and they're like, oh, well, I got to cut costs, I got to stop marketing. I think that's the wrong approach. And I think that's what most businesses do. So that's, if anything, going to give you the one up on everybody else,
Yeah. Don't stop putting gas in the car.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this conversation for the make sure we're on time for a meeting Joe needs to get off to. But I'm going to kind of end it with that. Danny, that was my last takeaway too. It's kind of like the stock market. When the stock market starts crashing, people jump out, right? And so that's what people are doing, obviously, right now with the stock market. And the same thing with marketing. All of a sudden, like, oh man, I got to cut these marketing expenses because now I don't think I'm going to be able to get this money in return. But I can't. I just saw a quote from Warren Buffett. I can't remember what exactly the quote was, but it's great. But the idea is be greedy when others aren't greedy. And pretty much what it means is like when the stock market starts crashing, buy, because now you're getting stuff at super low costs. Well, marketing is going to be more valuable. Actually, during COVID, people that marketed really strong during COVID, they saw a lot of return on that because there's a lot less people in the market marketing. So they're able to like get more out of their money. Right. So I would actually say like probably just make sure that you put yourself you got to be smart with your positioning where you're at. If you're just hemorrhaging money, that's a whole different story. And that's probably a business issue more than it is anything else, like meaning your business isn't as sound as it should be. But realistically, like keep marketing and market. I wouldn't say grow your marketing, but just keep doing what you're doing right now and just don't stop doing that. And the other component that I would say is you just got to do the work during this time. Cause like Joe, like we talked about, this is like, in many ways, we don't know how it's going to affect anybody. We don't know all the tariffs that are happening. It's so up in the air with all the stuff that's going on. So don't let it overstress you. Just got to keep doing the work, keep running your business the way it is. Try not to make too many modifications based on self-limiting beliefs, things that you think could be happening. Don't let those things happen. Let yourself continue to be focused on the plan going forward, make slight adjustments. And then, even if it comes down to be something, hey, I'm just stressed, I need people to talk to, join a group like the Brotherhood, right? Join in and have conversations. We talk about this stuff all the time. The amount of times we've talked each other off a cliff over the last like 8 years or more, it's amazing, right? We've, Joe and Danny both built businesses. They've gotten rid of their second locations, right? Like we've done so many things over time, and we've had real deep conversations about like, is that jumping off a cliff or not jumping off a cliff? And many times we've walked through, and it's like, sometimes like, yeah, you really need to get rid of it. And sometimes like, man, I think you're just moving too quickly. And so I think it's important to have a group. And in this situation, in uncertain times, is probably the most important time, just like we talked about with COVID, to have those. So guys, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up for the day, but thanks for jumping on a call with us again for the Brotherhood Beyond Business. We'll see you on the next one. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay locked in. Brotherhood is more than business. It's about leading from the front, leveling up in every domain, and becoming the CEO of your own life. Step up, execute, and we'll see you in the next one.